This is like the third place I've tried to film this, and finally, no drone signs, yay. Gorgeous spot here in Colorado Springs where I'm meeting up with Bo, one of my subscribers from YouTube, and he has the Air 2S and I have the Air 3. And look at this scenery we're gonna capture for you today so that you can sort of look and compare yourself which one you think looks better, if any at all. And at the very end of this video, I'm gonna talk to you about both of them and little differences to see if maybe it's worth the upgrade, or if you just have the Air 2, is it worth the upgrade? Spoiler alert, if you have the Air 2, it is. What's up, Bo?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Good to see you again.
Likewise.
Look how dirty it got from fucking that rainstorm.
Tell Ken how much I love his glove handles.
I actually got to get some kind of thing for mine too, because there is no way to hook the lanyard up to the Air 3, this controller, or even for the Avata. And since I'm starting to learn to pinch, wearing a lanyard is sort of a must. It's really hard to pinch just when you're free floating with a controller. Let me go grab mine and get this baby set up. Mine's so new that the tags are still on the bag. This enormous bag. It's a nice bag. It's a quality bag. Just a little clip right here. And that's it. Have you seen one yet?
No.
Look, it's all suede inside.
Got the new bag smell.
Yeah, new bag smell. It smelled horrible, but that horrible smell is dissipating. Here's the new gimbal guard cover. Sort of more like I think what the Mavic 3 is doing. You just yank it right off. It's sort of a pain, but it comes right off. I love this new styling that's on the top right here. Air 2S. We don't have the extra sensors on the top like the Air 2S does, because these sensors are omnidirectional. So they're actually covering more than what those 4 in the front are just by having 2. So it's a 360 sensor on this just by having the 4 sensors. I don't do the scale test, I do the hand test, and honestly, they're pretty damn close. What do you think? The weight's really not much different.
This actually feels a little bit lighter.
Really? So I don't
this
think
got
it
a
is.
bit more heft to it.
Yeah.
It feels lighter actually. I know they're not.
Yeah, it's
they just feel that
maybe
way.
it's because of the displacement of the size.
Could be.
That's the way I weight test stuff, man. Like, how many of you at home are actually going, let me take my drone and put it on a scale and see what it weighs? I don't. I doubt most of you do. So this is the RC2, I think is what they're calling it. If you notice, on the sticks here, these are male. The stick is male and it's got that wide screw. The stick on the new one is a female and it's got that skinny one like the Avata controller has. Although the Avata, it's a male, where this is the male. And if you don't know what I mean by male and female, then you must be like 12. I think 12-year-olds would know that by now. Maybe back in the 80s, a 12-year-old would be like, what's a renob? Boner backwards. That was the funniest joke in elementary school ever. You know, learn out what a boner, the word boner means. You're like, well, you know what one is, but when you learn the word, you're like, oh. Another difference between the two is the battery on the Air 3 comes out from the ass end, where the battery from the Air 2S is a top end battery. And you get this nifty little carrying case that charges at the same time. Pop your battery in, oops, don't pop it in backwards. And you release it with these little tabs here. Even without this being hooked up, I could actually recharge a battery just by double tapping this, and it takes the power from these to charge that one, or something like that. And I think you can use it as a hub, like to charge your smartphone and things like that, if I'm not mistaken. So what I'm gonna try to do is just quickly get 2 flights, and I'm gonna put both shots up for you to look at. And towards the end of each shot, I'm gonna write which drone it was, see if you can guess what it is. Everybody ignores the way they actually fly. And I find that to be one of the most important things that all of us should be concerned about, because that is what gives you the fun of flying. It's really hard to tell which one's louder without a sound decibel meter. You got the Air 2S, which is definitely a higher pitch. And then you get the Air 3, which is a little lower. And now we're gonna go back over to the Air 2S. And from a distance, can you hear one over the other? I don't think they're that different in levels.
That's a little bit higher pitch.
Which the lower pitch is less annoying.
Yeah.
So I don't think sound-wise there's a huge difference in actual level. I'm gonna see if I got a decibel counter on my phone real quick. Just downloaded a decibel counter. You can see it jumping up and down as I'm talking next to it. So let's see what we get when we put this close to the drone. Down here right between them, we'll give or take around 70 until I start talking. We're gonna go under the Air 2S first. So you're looking at 93 to 97 under the Air 2S. And between 90 and 95, 96 on the Air 3. Our assumption was correct. They're almost identical as far as decibels go. They just are high pitch and low pitch. So it's really what pleases your ear. Both of these are gonna be flying at 1080-60. We're not doing 4K. Obviously 4K is gonna be better if you're somebody who has a computer that deals with 4K, or you're doing it for something besides YouTube. 4K all day long. However, for YouTube and for ease of editing, I fly mostly in 1080-60, and I want to show that example for those of you who aren't all about the resolution bump to 4K. So it's hard to really show you how bright the screen is. It's bright enough. It could definitely be brighter, but I can see it to some degree. And here's the cool thing, like right from being above me, I can switch to 3 times zoom, and that's optical, and I don't even have to fly over there. I can just record it like this, and I could do some passes from way over here and get that parallax look, which is always so awesome. Love that look. This is a great spot, Bo.
Yeah.
I love that look. Look at that with the zoom. Look at.
Oh, that's sweet.
You can't really get that look without that zoom lens. Look at, oh, look at that.
That's sweet. Now, can you record off both cameras at the same time?
No.
No.
That would be
so you
nice.
switch cameras?
Still zoomed in, so I'm so far away from those actual rocks. You have to stop recording, switch.
Okay.
We go back to the main camera. Look how far away I actually am.
Wow.
And if we do that same movement to get that parallax, look, you don't get it. It's not the same.
Oh, wow.
You just don't get that look. When you have layers of things in the foreground, background, midground, that just can't be beat. Like, it's such a cool look. And now that I know how far I actually am, I mean, look at how cool that is. Because right there, it looks like I'm like right next to him and I'm going to hit him, but I don't think I am. God, it looks so close. It's sort of a mind fuck right there. Like, yeah, because look, I'm like nowhere near anything. I'm like by nothing. Would have sworn that we were about to just run into that, right? Like, but look, it's not even close. I switch it back to that camera. So cool.
That is gorgeous.
And we're just gonna sort of left and start yawing at the same time. And you'll start getting that crazy effect where everything moves at different rates. Yeah, now what I'm gonna do is throw it back to normal, the regular lens. God, it's so far away now. I'm gonna check something here in the settings. Check this out. Look at this feature. This comes up so, where is it? Return to home, altitude, max altitude, all right? So it's set at 344. Most DJI drones max at 16, but look at this. I can go up to 3280. The reason that that's impressive is because peaks like this are really high. And right now we're flying everything in auto. For these tests, we're not really adjusting settings. It's all about being in auto. So just like if you grab this from the store and you want to go play with it, you know what it looks like. And even though we're higher than 400 feet, we're still under the peaks of these mountains. So technically that's completely legal. Now, if we were over the peaks of the mountains by 1,000 feet, yeah, that would not be legal. But I'm curious to see what it looks like on the other side of this peak over here. So we should be able to start seeing over it any second here.
Amazing, you can't even hear it.
Yeah, it's really quiet. We're gonna yaw because with mountains, man, if you don't yaw or do something, it's really hard to see any movement because they're just so massive, you know?
Max altitude reached.
Really? Oh, let's change it again. That's weird, it's not letting me go over that. Maybe I gotta do that from the ground, I don't know. But so now, again, if we stop it, we zoom in, and you can see we were still pretty far to be able to zoom in that well. And the signal, I haven't had it falter even a little bit. It drops down and goes up way faster than the other drones too. Supposedly it's even faster than the Mavic 3, like with the way it drops and goes up and down. Yeah, this OcuSync 4 is mind-blowingly good. And as I say that, all of a sudden my signal dropped. So let me go up higher, and the signal is right back. The signal's not so good at going through rocks. When you live in the mountains, you can't really fly on the other side of a mountain. See, I forgot to record that whole time. Thank God I was screen recording. That's the one thing that I absolutely hate besides these beeps, 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 is that when I'm switching back and forth between the cameras, I have to stop recording and remember to restart. Half the time I forget to restart because I'm so used to auto record. I wish that there was a way that it could just somehow record maybe both cameras at the same time, or switch when I switch. I don't know. It'd be really cool if DJI can update it that way so it's just recording constantly. before even starting to fly, he hands me the controller, and instantly I'm like, oh, wow, I can see the screen so much better. That 700 to 1,000 nits on one of these makes a pretty good difference. And you have no zoom lens, right? No.
I think you can zoom on
Oh,
it.
you can zoom, but it's all digital zoom. All right, so we might be able to get a similar effect. Let's see.
I like it because it's so compact.
That's what I liked about the original Air 1.
Yep.
Is its size. So this is flying with it zoomed all the way out. There is a digital zoom on this. I was mistaken. So I am going to do that and see how the digital zoom on the Air 2S looks compared to the optical zoom on the Air 3. Oh, it can zoom in really far. It's only 3 times, so let's only go to 3 times so it's a fair comparison. All right, so that's at 3 times. A similar kind of parallax thing. It is a little different though. You did get a home point update on this, right? It does not look like you did. Colorado Springs is a weird town for flying drones because there are military bases out the ass here. So you can't fly in their state parks. You can't fly, and I don't know why I did this. You can't fly in national parks. You can't fly in national forest technically, and you can fly from like private land over all that stuff, like all of it. You can fly over everything unless there's like some big FAA guideline or blocker set, no fly zone. You don't want to fly over the Air Force. You don't want to fly over the Army base. You don't want to fly over the airports. Yeah, those are no-nos even if you're on private land. But when there's so much beautiful stuff like this, there's not like 20 of us here trying to fly this spot. There's never issues ever in the last, since I started flying drones in what, 2015, 16, something like that? Unless it's a drone meetup or an FPV club or something like that, where there's tons of people flying at the same time. Why wouldn't the city want this kind of stuff out there to share, to say, oh my God, Colorado Springs is beautiful. I want to go vacation there. All that means is money, 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 money for all the people that live here. So yes, Colorado Springs is beautiful. Come vacation here and spend your money with the local residents. Did you get some good shots, Bo? Bo's got some shots. Hopefully this will work, or did work, because you've already watched them. Let me know what you thought between the two. What differences did you notice? That's my alarm going off in my phone. We got some laser appointment for some tattoo removal, and then I will get to the studio, look over this footage. Actually, I've already done all that. Let's just watch it now. We're back at the studio, and I know this is a very long video, and I'm sorry about that, but I really wanted you to see some real-world use of the Air 3 and the 2S so that you could hear us actually talking about it and what we were doing to compare and come to the conclusions that I've written down on this piece of paper. First thing I want to talk about is signal strength, and it is so good on the Air 3 because it uses OcuSync 4, where the Air 2 I think is still using OcuSync 3. 3 to 4 is a huge difference. And I'm going to be doing a distance test soon, and when you do those distance tests, they aren't to really show you, oh, look how far it can go. It's to show you how strong that signal is because it can penetrate that far. So that means at a closer range, it can penetrate through more trees, smaller buildings, and things like that. I am incredibly pleased with the signal to the Air 3. The next thing I want to talk about is the sensors. So if we're doing things with camera drones and we're putting them in these active track or quick shots or modes where it sort of flies itself, sensors are really important. Now the Air 2S did jump up and add 2 more front sensors compared to the Air 2, and that was sort of a game changer. But the Air 3 actually uses 360 directional sensors and just 4 of them, so that it's actually sensing 360 degrees omnidirectional sensors. That's the word I was looking for, all the way around the drone. So when you're going sideways, forwards, backwards, it actually works really, really well. I actually found that out today when I was out flying for a different video. So the 2S is great when you're flying forwards or backwards, but when you're just flying straight sideways, it sort of lacks. So if you're debating between the two and sensors are important, the Air 3 takes that one too. Earlier in this video, I talked about the battery going in the ass end instead of on the top. One really good thing about that is the fact that if over time your battery starts to swell, you don't have to worry about it sort of being hard to push down and get in. The battery life is insane on this thing, even at these really high altitudes I live at. Now, before we get too far into this part of the video, I'm going to tell you they both fly very, very similar. If you're a camera drone person, they're great. You're not going to notice a huge difference, but you will notice one thing. The ascent and descent rate of the Air 3 is fast. I think currently it has the fastest ascent and descent rate of any of the DJI camera drones. We exclude stuff like the Avata and the DJI FPV because those you can pretty much just dive bomb and get up to crazy speeds. But having that additional speed with your ascent and descent is actually really, really nice. As you saw earlier in this video, we did put them side by side to hear how loud they were. And then we're gonna go back over to the Air 2S. Was one really truly that much louder than the other? And that answer is no. There's really not a huge difference between how loud they really are. One is just higher pitch and the other is a lower pitch. So if your ears prefer high pitch, that's the way you want to go. If your ears prefer the lower pitch, that's the way you want to go. Once it gets a little bit to altitude, I feel like the lower pitch becomes harder to hear from a distance. Now, as far as the controller goes, the RC2, it's pretty great. I've been enjoying it. I'm having the hardest time being able to get the screen recordings from the SD card to the computer. Even though mine says it's recording to the SD card, I can never find any files and I have to plug the thing in directly to my computer and then use Final Cut Pro to be able to get the files off, and it's an utter pain in my ass. So if you figured out how to do not only that, but to get audio with those video recordings of your screen, because mine says it's recording audio, but I never have audio on it, please let me know in those comments below. Since we're talking about the controllers, the RC2 is really nice for what it is. Brightness is only 700 nits versus the RC Pro controller or whatever it's called. That one's 1000 nits, but it's also a lot more expensive. I really do wish that DJI would have just bumped the brightness up because most of us are flying during the day in very bright conditions, and I hate carrying extra gear with me like a sun hood or anything like that to be able to see my screen better. So I bumped that into sort of a complaint, but it's not a huge one because you can still see it pretty decently. DJI still hasn't made it so a lanyard can hook directly up to it. As you heard Bo talk about, he has the love handles made by the original Dobo's channel. So there are aftermarket solutions to be able to hook up a lanyard to your controller. Now the size of the Air 3 is pretty similar to the Air 2S. However, it is huge compared to the Air 1. I gotta be honest, if DJI made this drone again exactly like this, but with OcuSync 4, I would buy it tomorrow. This has been one of my favorite drones that DJI made, except for the connection was Wi-Fi. And as we all know, Wi-Fi signals to drones aren't the strongest connection, so you go behind something and you lose that connection to your phone or your screen, and that sucks. But this drone still does so much that some of the newer drones still can't do. You can actually fly this drone just by your hand. And I always loved the styling of this drone and what it looked like. Although the Air 3 has actually stepped up its game and started bringing some style back to it. Now, something I wasn't expecting was the picture quality between the two during the day to be so drastically different. With the Air 2S, there is a 1-inch sensor, and the Air 3 has downgraded in a sense to a smaller sensor. However, the construction of that sensor changes the game because of the way it's made, that it actually works better and lets more light in, so low light or night photography or video looks better on the Air 3 than the 2S.
So what we have here is a backside illuminated stack sensor. Most camera drones have a front side illuminated sensor. There's a layer of metal wiring on top of the photodiodes which can block some light from reaching the photodiode. A backside illuminated sensors have the wiring on the backside of the sensor, which allows more light to reach the photodiodes. Backside illuminated sensors have a higher sensitivity to light, which is like the equivalent to dilating your eyes and then walking outside into the sunlight. A stacked CMOS sensor is pretty much the next generation after backside illuminated sensors. And what this does, it takes ultra-fast DRAM, sandwiches it in between the sensor, and increases the sensor readout speed. You're gonna get much faster and much better low light imaging. It's one of those things where you cannot get fixated on the sensor size. You have to pay attention to the technology that is going into the sensor, which essentially makes for a much better camera.
I expected during the day they would be almost dead heat side by side, but after making this video and putting the videos back to back and side to side, I was sort of blown away and surprised at those results. The Air 3 seemed crisper, more vivid, and just all around a better picture than the Air 2S. Now that doesn't mean the Air 2S is a bad picture at all. It's a great drone, it really is. If you have one, is the picture quality that much different to make you bump up to the 3? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. But if you have an Air 2, I'd say yes, 100%. If you're debating bumping up, it's a big improvement over the original Air 2. Now, having two cameras is great. In the right situation, it is just awesome having that zoom lens. But I wish that it could record and simultaneously switch between lenses. I saved my favorite feature for last. And to me, where I live, this is a game changer. As far as I'm aware, no DJI drone has done this before. Typically, when you get a DJI drone, it has a max altitude. And what that means is from takeoff point to how high it will let you fly. Now, of course, you can jailbreak it or hack the drone to be able to change the altitude. But if you're like me, you typically leave them stock and you don't do a bunch of behind the scenes hacking. That's why we tend to buy these DJI products, because we want them out of the box to just work and work right. But on the Air 3, the max altitude jumps from 1620 or 1640 or 1680, I can't remember what the number is, but it jumps all the way up to over 3,000 feet in elevation from takeoff point. And again, for me, that is huge. Now, if you live in a regular city that's pretty flat, you're never gonna be able to legally take advantage of that feature. But for me, living up in these mountains, I'll be down at a spot that's maybe 9,000, 10,000 feet above sea level with a peak of a mountain right over there, and I need to go up 2,000 to 3,000 feet to scale that mountain and get the shots that I want. You'll see what I'm talking about in an upcoming video. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do that now and click the bell notification so you don't miss it. Let me know which drone you preferred the video of, and if you are on the fence considering making the upgrade from the Air 2S to an Air 3 or an Air 2 to a 3, or if you're just interested in the 3 in general, or maybe you don't want one at all and you couldn't tell in this video the difference between the video. I mean, you made it this far in the video, you might as well leave a comment below. Hopefully this was a little helpful for you in your decision making. My name is Sean Oz, and this is the World of Oz, where I bring you on my life adventures covering drones, action cameras, and 360 cameras. So I hope to see you in the next one, and until then, have a great day.